Welcome in everyone to another edition of Big Apple Breakdown alongside Brandon Pockris. I am your host, Connor Long, here to preview the New York Jets Week 6 clash against the division rival Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. Brandon, we all know what happened Week 1, obviously, against the Bills last year. Monday Night Football. Jets coming off a loss. Crazy turn of events this week. Robert Saleh, he's out. Jeff Ulbrich, he's in. Todd Downing now calling plays on the offensive side of the ball. Brandon, how you feeling?
It's been crazy. It's been a lot, and this isn't the time or place to discuss if it was the right move, the wrong move, what they could have done to avoid getting this situation. But at the end of the day, the Jets probably have their most important game of the season this week on Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. And we're going to give some picks to kind of give some insight into what we think is going to happen and what we think should happen in this game.
Oh, and absolutely, Brandon. This is such a key game for the Jets. You look, they're coming off a Week 5 loss against the undefeated Minnesota Vikings, and this is going to be really interesting matchup because this game determines, who's first in the who possesses first place in the AFC East throughout the first 6 weeks of the season. So we're going to get right into it. Brandon, what's your lock for Monday night's contest?
My lock of the week is a Braylon Allen anytime touchdown. And quite frankly, if you want to throw Brees Hall in this spot as well, I think the same logic applies here. The Buffalo Bills do not have a very strong run defense. It has only gotten weaker with injuries like Matt Milano and them relying on a lot of younger players at linebacker. The reports today said that Jeff Ulbrich wants to commit to a more run heavy scheme,
Yep.
that the team is going to shift more towards that avenue. And all signs point towards Braylon Allen and Brees Hall being the two centerpieces of this offense. The offense is going to flow through them. And, Morgan Moses is back as well. You would think that, and just going off what you know from a roster, what you've seen, when that full offensive line has been there, has the run blocking been great? Not necessarily, but it hasn't been horrible when Morgan Moses is out there as well. I think the Jets are going to have way more success than they've had in that facet of the game, whether it's because of health or whether it's because I think Downing might scheme things up a little bit better. Braylon Allen's going to have an opportunity by the goal line, and I think he's going to punch it in.
Oh, and absolutely, Brandon. The Bills, you mentioned how their run defense has gotten weaker and weaker. You mentioned Matt Milano. Ed Oliver has also been officially ruled out, what only, weakens their already weak run defense, which, like I said, certainly does not help. And another thing you need to keep in mind, the Bills, they have the lowest blitz rate right now among any team in the NFL, 16.2%. So I'm going to go in a similar direction. I'm going to go with the same player, actually. It's Braylon Allen, but it's not for an anytime touchdown. I'm saying Braylon Allen over 50 rushing yards. They got him a bit more involved last week. They kind of said, okay, well, Bruce Hall, he seems to struggle. Let's get Allen involved more. Didn't look great, but I think this is a bounce back week. He takes advantage of those lower blitz rates, the weaker run defense, and I think he's able to capitalize on that, get over 50 yards, and I think it's going to be a great game for both the Brees Hall, Braylon Allen, the Jets rushing attack. You did mention Jeff Ulbrich. He did tell, Fox Sports' Jay Glazer that he is going to rely on a more heavy, more run heavy offense, as well as Todd Downing. He's someone I think he's not only going to show more strength in the Russian game, but he's going to bring more motion, less predictability to this team, which I think will open up more gaps for the rushing attack. You do mention Morgan Moses; he's back, and I think the offensive line ends up. I think this is kind of a bounce back game. They really struggled last week. They've struggled really all season. I think this is a game where they go out and show, hey, we might be some veterans. We might be, there are haters out there going to say we're washed up, we're old, we're injury prone. This is really who we are, and they form their identity this week. I really think that does happen. So my lock is Braylon Allen over 50 rushing yards. Brandon, what's a pick you're not possibly going to lock in, but you think it definitely could happen?
I think, and we're taking a bit off the beaten path here, not going with a specific player. First offensive drive for the Jets results in a touchdown at
Whew.
plus 350 odds. I really think that the Jets are going to want to prove a message to start off, right? I think that this team is going to want to prove that they're not going to let the firing of Robert Saleh dictate the rest of their season. They're not going to let that move throw them completely off course. I think that they want to show that they band together, that they're going to be stronger because of what occurred. And as a result, you're going to see probably the most aggressive opening script that the Jets have had this season, whether it's aggressive with the run game or trying to take a shot down the field. I think that you're going to see a very, very, very motivated New York Jets offense. And as a result, I don't think it hurts to put that one down, whether in a parlay or individually, and see what happens with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brandon, that's really interesting. You do mention the firing of Robert Saleh there. We did speak a little bit about it before we got into the picks. Sauce Gardner, during his media availability this week, he said, quote, quite frankly, we are kind of still playing for Robert Saleh. So that definitely is interesting. But the thing I like about Jeff Ulbrich, what he brings to the table, I view him as a leader of men. Jim Nagy, the founder and owner of the Senior Bowl, he compared him to Dan Campbell. I think that's a great comparison. I think players love, playing for Ulbrich. I think he's going to discipline players, and I think he's going to change this culture, turn it into a winning culture real quick. My pick that I think could happen is Mike Williams, anytime touchdown scorer at 350. This is really interesting because Williams, came out a bit of a rough game last week. He had only 2 catches for 25 yards. The offensive miscommunication at the end of the week. But prior to that, during the Jets' Week 4 loss, he had 4 catches for 67 yards. He's getting more and more involved week in and week out. I could see something Jets in the red zone. Aaron Rodgers lobs, a deep ball up on, not a deep ball, a contested catch ball up on, a fade. The Jets, that run one of the most, they use the fade route, one of the most out of any team in the league. So I could see that happening. I think Mike Williams, this is a game where, could break out over 100 yards possibly. I think this is going to be a big game for Mike Williams. So I'm going to go my pick that could happen, Mike Williams plus 350, anytime touchdown scorer. Brandon, what do you think is a bit of a far-fetch, a long shot in this game?
I put down each team to score a touchdown and a field goal in each half.
Wow.
Now, this would mean that we got a very high scoring shootout type performance, but I think that there's talent on both sides that can make this happen. We know the talent on the Jets offense. We've spoke about it so much at this point. I think Buffalo, if they have James Cook, if they have Khalil Shakir back, you could see them push to really attack the middle of the field, specifically the safeties. Outside corner is not going to be an issue. Quincy Williams is going to be an issue, but maybe you can get Sherwood on a play. Maybe you can get, Tony Adams or Chuck Clark on a play. And I think that's what Buffalo would try to do. It's far-fetched. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's also something that if it happened, I wouldn't be just 100% shocked.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a really interesting pick there. You've been seeming on 2 out of your 3 picks, you didn't necessarily go with a specific player, but more of kind of a team heavy thing on both sides of the ball, which I really do like. My pick that I think is a bit far fetched is Breece Hall over 50 receiving yards. One of the biggest, one of his strong suits really is his ability to receive the ball out of the backfield, and he's shown so much success doing that because in the Nathaniel Hackett play calling era, the Zach Wilson, even the start of the Aaron Rodgers era this season, Nathaniel Hackett was still calling these plays, these short little dump offs in the backfield where Breece Hall would just feast on yards after catch. But now Todd Downing, he's going to be calling the plays for the Jets. I think this is something, Downing comes out guns a-blazing. I think he's going to want to take shots immediately. I don't think he's going to want to rely on this like dink and dunk type style offense that Nathaniel Hackett has run the past year and 6 weeks now. So I think that's a bit far fetched. I don't really see any world where that happens against the Bills defense. First off, like Ulbrich said, I think they're going to rely more on the ground, but still, even if they lean a bit more towards the passing game, I can't see Breece Hall recording more than 50 receiving yards. But Brandon, that'll do it for us. Another edition of Big Apple Breakdown in the books. You got any final thoughts?
Yeah, just think it's going to be a really exciting game, one way or the other. You're going to see what this Jets team really has in them because adversity either makes teams or breaks teams. And we're going to see what category the Jets fall into. And it'll be really interesting after this game to project where they go moving forward.
Many storylines entering this game, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, Achilles, the change from Robert Saleh to Jeff Ulbrich, how the players are going to react. You mentioned the adversity. First place on the line, under the bright lights, Monday Night Football, MetLife Stadium coming up. Just a huge game that I think is a pivotal moment for the New York Jets season. Alongside Brandon Pockris, I'm your host, Connor Long, signing off. JETS, 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 Jets.